Hello and welcome to The Price of Music, brought to you by Music Ally, the show that both looks at the finances of the music industry, whilst also bringing you stories and comments about the past week in the pop business. He's Stuart Dredge. I'm Steve Lamack. Let us start with, well, it's one of our financial facts, the sort of thing you can use to amaze your friends or colleagues with the next time you bump into somebody who has even the faintest interest in how the music industry works. It's Stuart's big number for this week, which is, Stuart, what have you got?
Right, I wanted desperately some good news. It's basically where this comes from. We all need some good news. So the big figure is £50,000. That's not the price of a tank of petrol for your car just yet. That's how much Sam Fender has donated to charity youth music from his latest tour.
Oh, right. Okay. So 50 grand to youth music. That's good. And it's going, is there a specific project that they're going to use it for?
Yeah. So it's from donations from ticket sales for his new tour. And it's part of this Rescue the Roots campaign that youth music runs to kind of support projects around the country working with young people music. So it's going to match fund it. So £50,000 becomes £100,000, and it's going directly to projects in the northeast of England. So it's kind of an example of actually, he's not just giving back to where he came from in terms of grassroots music. He's giving back to literally where he came from and projects to find the next Sam Fender, in Newcastle and that kind of region of the country. And this follows on from, do you remember last year he gave his £25,000 Mercury Prize winnings to the Music Venue Trust?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you've got friends listening, people listening, what friends who think Sam Fender, he's rubbish, he's a good egg.
Yeah.
You need more of those in the world.
That's our feel-good story for this week. Here's three other talking points which we thought were worth sharing with you. Starting with this. Everyone, Justin Timberlake, Jay-Z, Madonna, I guess most famously Missy Elliott, they've all collaborated with the superstar producer Timbaland, but his latest musical partner is, I'm going to have a run at this, Tata Taktumi. But here's the twist. She's not real, or is she? Is this open to debate?
Wow, it's seemingly so. So you know how we talk a lot about Suno, the AI music service, and how it's kind of quite controversial within the industry, and artists don't like it because it was how it was trained. But Timbaland is quite a fan. He actually joined the company as a strategic advisor a couple of years ago. And now he's got this company called Stage Zero developing AI artists. So they're going to be developing, not just making AI music, but actually creating the virtual artist to kind of release it. And this first one is, I'm going to try it too, Tata Taktumi, I think. So she's kind of a solo female electronic music singer / rapper. The first video came out last year, and actually Timbaland appeared in it. And it's a very strange video. It's like Timbaland sort of boogieing around with a virtual avatar next to him. And the reason it's in news is this week they signed a record deal with this company called Pacific Music Group, which is based in Asia. So this virtual artist now has a record deal and a marketing sort of partnership, and they're going to be trying to make her. I say her. What do we say? What pronoun do we use for this kind of thing? Is it an it or a her? I don't know what you say when the person is not a real person. But the other thing I found interesting was Timbaland's taken a lot of flack about this project in the last kind of couple of years. Like in the comments section of Instagrams, people are saying, why are you working with Suno? Why are you making AI music? And even like, why is your first AI artist an Asian woman? And is there kind of a bit of a worry about cultural appropriation here? And in this press release, they had a whole point of saying, no, the artist behind Tata Taktumi is of Filipino heritage, adding a deeper cultural dimension to the project. And they said that her personal identity remains intentionally private, which, if you're a cynic, is a bit of my girlfriend goes to another school and you wouldn't know her. But taking it at face value, there is a human behind this. And this Tata Taktumi is kind of her avatar. So it's one of those stories about, they're going to try and make this a hit. And it's got Timbaland behind it. But so far, this artist has just over 2,000 listens on Spotify, and the biggest song has 45,000 streams there. So there's quite a lot of work to do. But yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing, like, because Timbaland is he and Missy Elliott particularly, didn't they? They had such a huge role in changing the way music sounded at that time. And so people are looking at that going, right, and this is what you're doing now. And quite a lot of people are not so keen on it. But
will the Timbaland brand though help this? This is the difference between other AI artists popping up on the streaming services. In this case, instead of being an anonymous producer, this is Timbaland. So it's all being sold on Timbaland, I guess.
That's it. And if anyone's going to make interesting sounds from an AI music thing, it should be him. And he's not just going to be there pressing a button saying, "Write me a song about the club," and bosh it out. Like you'd think he's going to be doing, because Suno, I think we talked about this last week a bit. Its whole direction of travel is going, look, we've got all these tools for proper musicians and producers to do complicated stuff with. We're not just a press a button and a song pops out thing anymore. So yeah, but I mean, there is this debate. Like, will he help this? Will he help this get over people's distrust? Or is the alternative, is this going to harm his kind of standing and his legacy? And, obviously people who are across on the internet are saying this trashes your entire legacy, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. He should be able to do something interesting with it. So we'll see. But so far, she's only had a couple of songs out. But I would assume now we have this deal, this record label deal, we'll be seeing more music in the year ahead, and we'll find out if it is any good.
So what they've really signed to the record label is Timbaland. In a way, rather than, obviously they've signed the artist, but the artist is manufactured by, whoever the human is behind it, and the Timbaland brand. That's what they've signed.
Well, that's the interesting thing, isn't it? Because does this depend on Timbaland being involved? Like, if he got bored and didn't stop doing it, what have they signed? If this got an artist who we don't know are behind it, and an avatar character.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, what is a record deal for a virtual artist? I mean, they obviously haven't released the details, but yeah, I would think it's very much about they're working with Timbaland, and it's it's Timbaland's new music is going to be coming out with this another virtual. I think the plan is he's going to release a bunch of virtual artists if this works. So
right. Okay. While we're on the subject of AI and AI music, obviously some artists have been getting very cross about fake AI-generated songs appearing on their own Spotify profiles. But now Spotify are doing something about it. They've found a way of trying to help out the real artist here.
Yeah, well, this has been happening more and more, and you've probably seen the stories like I have, where a song appears on an artist's profile and all their followers on Spotify or Apple Music get a thing saying, here's a new song from artist X. And then it turns out to be not them, and they don't do anything about it. And they say, hang on, that's not me. The crazy example was there was a country musician called Blaze Foley who had some new music suddenly pop up. And he's been dead since 1989, which isn't always a barrier to releasing new music if it's been found in the vaults. But so yeah, the point here being, like, the way stream works is if music comes out attached to your profile as an artist, your followers get pinged, it appears in their new music playlist that Friday, and it gets it in front. And as always, Spotify gets the lion's share of the criticism for this, even though it's not a one company problem, it's everywhere. So it's got this new thing it announced last week called Artist Profile Protection. And it's quite simple, really. If you're a musician, you can say, nothing goes live on my profile unless I approve it.
Right.
And if something comes up that's not me, I can decline it and it won't go live as me.
Right.
I say very simple, the stuff to make this work is probably quite hard work. It does mean you have to remember to approve your own releases, because if you forget that you've got a single coming out and you haven't said to Spotify, this is definitely me, it won't. So they've warned people that you have to do that. But yeah, it's the first real streaming service to say, okay, this is the problem and this is what we're doing about it. And unashamedly, a good thing, I think, giving control back. So in theory, this should mean that your favorite artist doesn't suddenly release a techno banger when they're a roots Americano artist, which is the sort of thing that's been happening in the last year.
Music's latest bitter lawsuit is, ladies and gentlemen, Twigs versus Twigs. That's FKA Twigs versus the indie band The Twigs. So it's a spat over who owns the name, or
one true Twigs.
Yeah. Who came first, Twigs or Twigs?
The Twigs. Yeah. So the Twigs came first. So they're this American independent band. They've been releasing music since 1996. So very, very and FKA Twigs. Obviously, I think her first album came out in 2014. So right. And actually, that year, the Twigs did sue her for trademark infringement when she was about to kind of play a gig in the US.
Right.
And at the time, the lawsuit was withdrawn, And there was kind of reports saying they'll probably reach a deal now. She'll probably pay some money to allow them to coexist. Because that's what you can do with trademarks. You don't have to win or lose. You can actually reach a deal where you both coexist.
Right. Okay.
And now this year, apparently, the Twigs sent her suddenly out of the blue a cease and desist order saying, we're going to threaten you with a court injunction if you carry on using this name. And now she is suing them right back, saying there's no trademark infringement here. It's not a thing. They're just trying to get money out of me. And that's the accusation. They're just trying to get money. Which is, I mean, it's so if I put my legal hat on, the whole point about trademark infringement is there needs to be confusion. You need to prove confusion. People will think that the Twigs are FKA Twigs or vice versa. And FKA Twigs' lawyers are saying that's not happening. No one thinks the Twigs are me. No one thinks I'm the Twigs. We're in different genres, different levels of popularity. It's quite a brutal bit in the filing where they compare their Spotify numbers. But the Twigs presumably feel they do have a case. And then like the other thing about trademarks is you kind of have to protect them or you lose them. It's the reason why, like, if I write biro in an article when I mean pen, I'll get a letter from Biro's lawyers pointing out that Biro is not a generic name for pen, it's a brand, because they have to protect their trademark. So in a way, as a band, you do have to protect this. But I mean, I think it's maybe a sign of the times, really, that we're running out of names.
Yeah, well, I mean, this has been true ever since I think the 90s. I mean, there was a whole raft of British bands who had to alter their name even slightly because there was a band mainly in the States who said, "Hang on a second, we're Suede," and Suede became in America the London Suede.
Of course.
That's right, isn't it? And then Charlatans UK. And the weirdest one, when I was running Deceptive Records, our first signing was a band, and this tells you how badly we have run out of names. We signed, our first signing was a band called Collapse Lung, and we had a letter from the States from a band called Collapsing Lung.
Oh, wow.
So, but I think they were... I think they were of sort of new metal origin, Collapsing Lung. So there wasn't too much of a crossover, and it seemed
Didn't have any football songs.
No, they had no Eat My. Yeah, they wouldn't understand Eat My Goal for a start, would they? So there was no
touchdown.
No,
their big hit, I think.
Yeah, no confusion to be had there. But yes,
that's the thing, I think. Yeah, so like this is a case like FK Twigs is saying they're just trying to get money out of me, but the Twigs may well feel like this is us, and we need to defend it. So. We'll find out. I mean, should I do the usual line that we do?
Yeah,
this will probably get settled out, of course. Okay. And this feels like an example where they should be able to coexist as different artists and in their own lanes. But for now, FKA Twigs is suing, and the Twigs are threatening to sue.
Okay, any other business? You've got a correction to the BTS story from last week's episode. That figure, what was the figure? We said 300 million people watched their concert on Netflix. I think that was a little OTT.
It was, and it's not my fault.
Oh, okay, I never thought it was. I genuinely never thought it was.
This is fake news from the Times and the Telegraph newspapers.
Right.
Both of them, and in fact, I think if we go back, I think I said this is not an official stat, so we should be careful.
Yes.
At least I hope I said that.
Yeah.
But yeah, BTS played a concert in Seoul. Netflix streamed it live. And yeah, these reports said 300 million people watched. But Netflix put a press release out saying it was 18.4 million people.
Right. That is some discrepancy. Dear Broadsheets, we understand you have been known to exaggerate in the past, but this is a triumph of exaggeration.
Well, it is, and I don't know where the number came from originally. But I mean, the thing is, it's still a huge number, isn't it? Like 18.4 million people watching your concert.
Yeah,
is a huge, But it just suddenly seems a bit small because of the previous claim. But yeah, I mean that's still a lot of people. And we talked last week, I think, about how Netflix maybe doing more of this stuff. I mean, that to me counts as a success, and BTS are continuing to set every streaming service's records alight. So.
Yeah. I've got a question for you listeners. Have you ever been to a gig where the first band on started the moment the doors opened, or possibly they were on as the doors opened. This, because I thought about this after on Friday night just gone. So I was at the Six Music Festival. We did a show live to air in the evening, but then I DJ'd as part of the Six Music Indie Forever Club Night, warming up for Nick and Beth Disso and Nick Grimshaw were on after me. But yeah, due to what I can only imagine is, or can describe as, some cock up in the timings, my set started at midnight. The doors opened at midnight. So when I played my first record, I counted 5 people in the room as I started. So have you ever come across a band being on stage so early that the crowd had yet to arrive? And I mention this partly because this brings up the great Coldplay story when they were playing Reading. It was the first time at Reading. So they were a very young, not very well known Coldplay. First on, opening the Enemy Radio 1 stage, whoever the sponsor was that year, probably both of them, but that stage, the tent. There was a problem with the gates opening, and the gates were going to open late, but the stage manager, who I guess didn't want the stage to run late. You don't want stages running late. Yeah. That's a stage manager's. That's the one thing which really, one of the things that irritates a stage manager is if bands overrun. Yeah. Or your stage is running late. But the stage manager said, "Well, you've got to go on." Mm. And so Coldplay went on before the gates opened and played to an empty, the first part of their set, legend has it, to an empty tent. And I don't know how, I mean, obviously I think they were quite irked by this, as you would be, but I don't know if this is the reason, but Coldplay never played Reading again.
Ever? Since
that. Examples of bands going on before the doors opened or as the doors opened. We'll give you the email address a bit later. Sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to say, this is not quite right, but I once saw Guns N' Roses play in the stadium, and they came on time, and 30,000 people had to rush from the bar because no one goes to Guns N' Roses assuming they'll be on time. So they came on to like a third full standing stadium because everyone just assumed they'll never come on that time. It was great. It was like those time-lapse videos you see of people going into a gig. Yeah. It's like empty. It was like that in real time, with everyone running from the bar going, Jesus, they're on.
Very good. So we'll give you the email. I see, talking of getting in touch with the programme, here's an answer to a listener question. Thank you very much. Pete Feldon. Pete got in touch to say, "Hi guys. At this time of year, various commentators on the BBC, both specialist and others, tell us that country music is the fastest growing genre in the UK. Is this true? I know it's bigger than it used to be, but for several years running, it has supposedly been growing faster. So will this growth eventually lead to the eclipse of all other music genres? Is country music the fastest growing genre in the UK? And if so, can we prove that or disprove that?"
So, yes, with caveats. The caveat being that fastest growing from a small base.
Yeah.
So there's probably things growing faster that were genres that were invented 2 years ago that have grown 700,000% in 2 years. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I've got two sources here. One is the BPI, which is the labels body here, and the other is Spotify, who pulled some data for us exclusively. So the BPI actually put a report out in 2024, last year for 2024, saying that since in the last 2 years, country had doubled its share of the UK singles market. And this is where the small base comes in. So in 2022, we had 1.6% of the UK singles market, had 2.1% in 2023 and 3.3% in 2024. So it's doubled, but it's still just 3.3% that year. We haven't got the figures for last year yet.
Right.
But that makes it the sixth biggest genre behind pop and rock and hip hop and R&B and dance. It was the sixth biggest genre. And I think it was just under 3% of album streams and sales that year too. So it's big growth, but from a very, very small base. But then Spotify, I asked them about what they're seeing in the UK, and they told me since 2020, so the last sort of 5.5 years, there's been a 238% rise in country streams in the UK, and that's comfortably the biggest of any country in Europe. And again, so Rick there, who does their comms, he said it's probably not the fastest rising genre in percentage because something like funk has probably grown by thousands of percent.
Yeah.
But the other thing he said was nearly half, so 45% of the Spotify country streams come from people aged under 30. So it's kind of a lot of young people listening to country that's driving this trend. And then looking at some of the stuff that's been making this happen. So the big country stars like Morgan Wallen and Jelly Roll, they've had a big impact. Shabuzi had a really big track in 2024 that was like a huge pop hit in a way. It was big in the charts. It wasn't just a country. And that was the year that Cowboy Carter came out, the Beyonce album. Post Malone had a country album that year. So that was a year of particular sort of lots of stuff going on, not just like core country artists, but the big pop artists who are getting into country. And then the other thing people were saying when I was saying what's happening now is they were saying it's almost starting to become a bit blurrier to track because, I don't know, so who's a good example? CMAT, for example. She's definitely got a strong country influence, but it's not just that. She's not a country artist only. And there's more artists like that who've been influenced by what's happening. But yeah, so I suppose to answer the question, it is probably the fastest growing big genre in the UK, but it's not going to eclipse everything else for a while yet. Yeah. But I mean, as it's grown, it sort of has a self-perpetuating effect because it's now worth big country stars coming over here to play concerts. They know they can fill arenas and stadiums, so more of them do it. And at the same time, people are listening to country music. The barriers to listening to it have really come down. In that, if you like one country song, one country artist, you'll get recommended more by your streaming service. You'll gradually find your way into it. So yeah, it's growing, and I think it's an exciting thing for people who work with country artists because this is a good market for them. And other places in Europe too. I once saw Deezer. I once had a map of like genres unexpectedly popular in different countries of the world. And apparently Germany was huge for country music at that time. And they had like a big cowboy hat on Germany in this map. So it's been like all kinds of things happening around. But yeah, it's growing. It's not the biggest genre, and rock and pop aren't under threat just yet.
It obviously isn't this country, but you mentioned like the UK and it's sort of happening in Europe. It's happening in the States as well to a certain extent where at least with a sort of new wave of country artists, and I only know this because it was something that came up in conversation with Dev Sherlock, who's one of the programmers for South by Southwest, who was saying that for obviously South by Southwest starting in Austin, Texas 40 years ago, the majority of music was country linked, and then country music began to stagnate for quite some time. But he was saying there were far more country artists at this year's South by Southwest than in previous years because there's been more experimentation with the genre. There's a new wave of younger artists coming through who are not just repeating what's gone before. So it's even happening there to a certain extent.
Yeah, I once did an interview. We did a whole report about country music a few years ago for Music.ly, and someone there was saying, streaming is helping country reach more people around the world, but streaming has also helped more music from around the world reach young country artists, and so their influence palette is much wider. And so it's kind of it's interesting. I mean, I don't know. I sometimes feel like I should know more about country. Like I need to spend some time like investigating the new artists because I think a lot of Brits, we still have this cliched thoughts, don't we, about what country music is. So I need to spend a day just like going, right, who are the ones who are new and exciting?
And finally for this week, by the way, thank you very much, Pete, for that question. Do you prefer deep cuts to big hits? If you do, can we point you in the direction of a new website which is called The Hidden Jams, which is trying to help people discover the obscurities in bands' catalogues. So essentially, and this is obviously fan driven, isn't it? And who knows what this is going to throw up? But the idea is, if you want to find a really good, Radiohead track, say, that isn't one of the big hits, then this is the place where you can go and recommend something. So it's shining a light on the obscurities in a band's catalogue.
Yeah. Or alternatively, it's going to start a lot of arguments. Because yeah, it is. It wants to be. I think I got a press release about it, and it wants to be the Wikipedia of deciding which songs are best in a band's catalogue. So you register as a fan, and then you vote on your favorite tracks, and it turns those into rankings. And it's starting with rock bands because that obviously seemed the place to start. So it goes from like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and R.E.M. through to Arctic Monkeys and Radiohead, some modern bands. And it's interesting. I mean, it is interesting because I don't know. I thought of it as deep cuts, but it's maybe some of the tracks that are top aren't exactly unknown.
Right.
So like the top ranked track for Radiohead is Paranoid Android.
Okay.
Which is, I know it's not Creep, it's not, but it certainly wasn't an under the radar. Did it get to number one? It was number one or number two, wasn't it? It was a hit.
It was a big hit. Yeah.
To be fair, like Weird Fish's Arpeggio is second, but I think even that has had a TikTok viral moment, which is the other thing here. Like some of these tracks that you thought of as obscure deep cuts a few years ago are now like the biggest tracks of that band because they've gone big on TikTok randomly. So it's hard to define what deep cut is.
And that's played out on the streaming services in a lot of cases, isn't it? So this almost exists for some bands already, because there's that Pavement track that wasn't one of their best known tracks that became, as you say, had its moment, and that's top or second in their Spotify rankings. I think that's their most listened to tracks, but that was because for a time loads of people listened to it.
That's it, yeah. And there's like, even so like for R.E.M., for example, Radio Free Europe is their top ranked song on this platform.
Right.
And that's because that's what the fans have chosen, or the fans who've registered. I'll spare you the Black Crowes one, but I'll send that as your playlist if you like.
Thank you very much. This follows on. I mean, some fans of certain bands have done this sort of work already. I think I remember when I was interviewing Radiohead. I can't remember for what record, and looking online doing some prep, I found a fan site that had listed every Radiohead song in order of how much they liked it and importance, and how much the fans liked it and everything. So it was all of Radiohead's songs from top to bottom, and I just read out what their worst 4 songs were. And they were sat there going, there was one from the Pop Is Dead EP, I think, and they went, oh yeah, that wasn't good. But it's like, the entire Radiohead back catalogue ranked by a fan.
I mean, that's the thing with fans. It can be a brutal wake-up call, can't it? Because I suppose the interesting thing would be to compare some of these rankings on this Hidden Jam site with the streaming totals. Because are they going to match those and follow them, or will they be different? Because if you're a band planning a tour, this could be quite useful information. If you're not sniffy about seeing what the fans like and playing it, maybe you're the kind of band that looks at this thing as, right, we're not playing any of the top 10 from here because we're an artist. We're playing all new material that's not even on this site yet.
That's it for this week. Thank you very much for listening. If you are enjoying the show, please do spread the word. You can also support us via Patreon. In fact, if you sign up to be a super fan, you get to join us for our weekly lock-in, where you get to stay behind, after hours for an extra 15 or 20 minutes of kind of bonus material, I guess we'd call it. And it's actually quite a good time to mention and welcome another new super fan, Stephen Rayner. Bless you. You can join Stephen and the rest of the gang behind the lock-in doors just by becoming a super fan of the show. The address patreon.com/thepriceofmusic, patreon.com/thepriceofmusic. Or if you'd simply like to get in touch with us about anything, really, anything you don't understand about how the industry works, or where the money goes, how much stuff costs, how much do people get paid, all this type of stuff. Or if you're after some guidance or advice from the professionals, drop us a line at thepriceofmusicpodcast@gmail.com. That's thepriceofmusicpodcast@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you, and we'll be back next week. Till then, take care. Cheerio.